All eyes are on Minnesota this weekend thanks to college basketball's Final Four, but there's more to celebrate in the state, including a series of innovations that have virtually ended homelessness among military veterans. Dana joins us again with that story. Dana, hi.
Hi, Anthony. Yeah, veteran homelessness is a problem nationwide, and Minnesota is one of just a handful of states that seems to have actually solved it. They've used an individualized approach, first learning what factors contributed to the situation, be it mental health issues, substance abuse, or just economics. Then they tailor a support system to address those issues while finding the housing. It's a model that actually could help the general homeless population, veteran or not.
People don't understand how you can get there. You know, they think all life is a breeze, but things happen.
Teresa Marshall spent 13 years in the Army as an air defense artillery specialist, starting in Operation Desert Storm.
I had a 6-month-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and I left on her birthday.
What was that like?
Teary, very emotional, very uncomfortable, but I signed up for it.
So you served your country?
I served my country, and I don't regret it.
She retired in Chicago, but after her husband passed away in July of 2017, Marshall fled to the Twin Cities. She found work as a chef, but wasn't able to find a place where she could afford to live.
So you were living in your car?
Yeah.
For how long?
A year. Yeah. I didn't want to really stay in a shelter because of so many people, or just out of fear.
A visit with the Minnesota VA changed Marshall's life when she was told about an organization that helps place the state's military veterans in temporary housing.
What did you think when you heard about it?
Terrified.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Was it almost it's too good to be true? What do you mean you want to help me? And what do I have to give you?
Right, exactly.
Marshall wasn't alone. There were just over 1,700 homeless veterans in Minnesota in 2010 when the state decided it had had enough.
How do you go about tackling a problem like homeless veterans?
I think the approach that we've taken is really to break it down into its essential elements.
Larry Herkey is the commissioner of Minnesota's VA. 9 years ago, his department began to compile a registry of every veteran living on the street in the state. Working with partners like the federal VA and numerous nonprofits, they started finding homes for veterans.
They all had these resources, but no one organization could solve the problem by themselves. It took the combination of all the organizations to be able to pull together and to be able to come up with the actual solution to this problem.
Herkey has found support at the state level, including Minnesota's new governor, Tim Walz, a fellow veteran of the National Guard.
It's important to fulfill that, no one will be left on the battlefield, no one will be left behind to care for, he or she who bore the battle. And that's why we need to do it.
It's about service to those veterans, and it's clear.
Before taking office in January, Walz spent 12 years in Congress, where he was the ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs.
If we're going to fight this fight, it is going to be big, and it's going to be transformational with the big T.
I think it probably intersected with the military attitude, that here's a problem, create courses of action, and execute the mission.
What is that mission? To eradicate homelessness completely?
Zero. People say, kind of theoretically, can you ever do that? Yes, you can do that. We started working with the county folks and said, you have 17 of these folks in Swift County. What can we do to help you with that? And then start aligning those resources. Then it became manageable. It became one at a time to start to place them. We have an old Fort Snelling here. It was an old outpost on the frontier, served as where the code talkers were during World War II. There's a rich history here.
Walz says with some creative work at the federal, state, and local level, part of the fort has been converted into transitional housing for veterans.
We were up there a few weeks ago, and just a sense of pride. And it sits right next to a light rail line. The first stop is the VA hospital. And listening to these veterans say, all of these pieces came together, that I can get around, I can get my health care, I have a place to live, now I have a job.
My staff sort of talks about it as a marathon. I told them, and now it's time to do the sprint. We're going to move the needle, and we're going to finish up with these last 223 that need to find a home somewhere.
Sometimes they have nobody else but us.
Right.
Sam Peterson and Rochelle Washington helped track down those veterans as case managers for the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, or MACV.
Why is it so important that you're here, that they don't have to come find you?
Sometimes they don't have the transportation too. come find us.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't have a phone, and the place that we know they're probably going to be when they go to sleep at night is one of the shelters.
Meeting them where they're at, where they're comfortable, where they probably feel safe, and as opposed to uneasy in my office kind of thing, builds that trust.
On the night we visited the Simpson Housing Services shelter, Peterson met with a veteran who opened up for the first time.
He wasn't always in the mood to connect with me, but tonight we had a bit of a step forward. So even though we didn't get him moving forward necessarily with traditional MACV case management, every little interaction is important. I think that'd be a good resource for you.
As for Teresa Marshall, she found temporary housing thanks to MACV and moved in just a few weeks before we met her. Her rent is offset by a federal housing voucher available to veterans, and she can stay until she's able to secure a permanent home.
Can you imagine where you would be if you didn't take that leap of faith?
No, I don't want to imagine because it's almost a nightmare. I have someone to care about me now.
And Sam Peterson, who's that caseworker for MACV that we spent time with, told us the veteran that opened up to him the night we were with him, he's actually seen him at the VA's Community Resource and Referral Center, and that's another step forward to trying to find housing for him. It's all a process, and again, it's that individualized approach. Remember, that number now is down to 223 homeless veterans. That's all from where they started. It's really a huge step forward.
It's amazing progress, Dana, what they're doing. It's just a remarkable program.
Kudos to the caseworkers, and it seems so obvious, right?
Yes.
You figure out what the problems are, what they need, and you give it to them.
Yeah, it's just easier said than done. And remember that when it's not the veteran population, it gets a little bit trickier. You can't do this exactly across the board. You don't have a federal housing voucher that you can do. You don't have some of the assistance that veterans are getting, but it's certainly certain things that they can look at.
Dana, you have earned your keep this week. I tell you, another amazing story. Amazing.